tell me about, being a first sergeant in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Wow. I will tell you, I can't think of any greater privilege to have had that. And what's really unique about how it happened for me was I got selected for E8 in 2001, and immediately got a call from our branch manager who said, look, they're going to promote this list in like 60 days. So I was in ending my second year at Washington University, St. Louis as a instructor. And I was getting ready to go TDY to Fort Lewis I was a sticks evaluator for the second year at Fort Lewis. And he said, you're going to Fort Bliss. Okay. And I was like, man, just like that Bliss. I mean, there was no alternative. We need, you'll be a Patriot Battery First Sergeant at Bliss. So the good thing about it was Teddy I was going too. So we both hit the same list. So we thought, well, Teddy will be there. That's fine. I went on my 2-month TDY, actually got promoted in the field at Fort Lewis. Pretty cool. And I got a call one day, at the school, and they said, hey, I can't remember who our branch manager was. And he just said, hey, I got an opening at Bragg. You're already jump master qualified. Before he could even finish that, I was like, yeah, I want to go there. So that's how quick it happened. Well, then, looking into it, of course, Sergeant Major Ridgway was now the Sergeant Major, and it said incoming battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Underhill. I'm like, wow, that was my battery commander and then a fellow platoon sergeant when I left.
Marshall in the middle.
Oh, look at you, Matt Brietzke. What's going on, First Sergeant? Can you hear me? Look at that. Alpha 34 ADA.
There he is. What's up? You see that? You like that? Okay?
That is the best, dude. Let me get my sound up. Hold on just a second. I'm in a situation right here where I have no internet at my place. The internet just went down. I got a message like 30 minutes ago, and so I've had to move, and dude, oh my
Great
God.
to see you, man.
Oh my gosh, I can't. Right, I'm just like baffled that we're talking right now. I love you, man, dude. I love
you too, bud.
I love you, man. So tell me what's going on in your world, man. You're in Texas now, right?
Yeah, living in out in the country, about 100 miles, kind of northwest of Dallas. About 40 minutes from Fort Worth. Got a little farm out here, raising some chickens and some geese and things like that, and shooting hogs all the time. Man, I love shooting hogs. I got eight hogs already this year. So I manage an indoor gun range and also do some work as a private firearms instructor. So not bad.
Dude, you're a hero of mine, man. Thank you for your service and your patriotism and just who you are. I know you, so I know that if you're like teaching a gun client, I know you're doing good service for that person. I know you're telling them right things, and I just know that. And so thank you for you and your continued service to our country and the fellow Americans and patriots that are around us. My gosh, dude. So, all right. So what's the biggest deer you ever killed?
Actually, I killed an axis deer in February.
Really?
Texas is full of exotic ranches. You can shoot a zebra in Texas if you have enough money. The biggest deer, I've got a couple of good 10-pointers. I never had anything scored. I mean, nothing like Boone and Crockett in that range, but Yeah, I've shot some pretty good ones, and I've actually shot 3 right here on my own land, and that's awesome. That's where I can set up on my own land. I'm not leasing anything, and usually get one every year, decent. So, but right now with that big fallow deer, the freezer is full, man, full, top dog, full of hogs and deer. So.
All right, so settle something for me now, okay? Since you're that gun guy, just for a second, okay? Settle something for me, okay? So you're gonna go whitetail hunting. Tell me what cartridge you're carrying.
Right now, 30-06. For years and years, I went 270. I've actually shot more deer with 270, but took it up a notch. Stayed the same, maybe the same range, but a little more killing power. Same for hogs, same gun. Got to knock them out. But yeah, definitely usually 30-06. I also got some Magnum rifles, but I saved the Magnum rifles for elk and bear. So a little bit too much thump for just a whitetail.
All right, so take me back. Talk to me about young Matt Brietzke and where you're from. You're from Wisconsin, right?
From Wisconsin, yeah. Originally from north central Wisconsin, town of about 10,000. Young, graduated from high school in 1983. I had joined the Army, delayed entry program, 1982. Was ready to go. I come from a family. My dad had 12 siblings, 8 boys total, all served, 5 in World War II. So from a young age, I was like, I am going to serve my country to follow my family's legacy. My dad served during the Korean era, a couple other uncles in between the Korean War and World War II. So joined in 82 and 9 August 83, headed out to Fort Bliss. But to back up a little, when I joined in Milwaukee, I was 17 years old by about 3 weeks. This was September of 82. Young kid, I mean, right off the farm. And they said, well, I was intrigued by missiles, Hawk, and at the time it was Hawk and Nike Hercules, and I read all these things about missiles, and I want to see something. I want to be around missiles. The guy said, well, and it was an old computer where they had a phone modem and no screen, and he said, well, I got this thing called a Vulcan, and it's 20 millimeter. Shoots 3,000 rounds a minute. And I was like, yeah, I gotta be on that. You were the same. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Gave me the time frame I wanted to leave. And then he said, by the way, yeah, you gotta go airborne. Okay. So he said, just go back, get them to sign off on your physical. So, just if I would have went Hawk or something like that, of course, that opportunity never would have popped up. But and I got home, my father was kind of like, you're going to do what? I said, yeah, I'm going to jump out of airplanes. Well, needless to say, at first he was pretty skeptical until I came home on leave the Christmas after jump school. And I always remember that. He was like, hey, airborne. And, probably thought I could never do it maybe, but that was always a great moment for me. And that was my start. Before that, just grew up always hunting, fishing, farming, did all that. And that's kind of where that still carries forward today. First duty station, Alpha Battery 3488. I was there 3 times. And it's kind of weird. I started in the same unit that I retired from. So started and finished, same battery, same barracks, you know it well. And then I was there 92 to 96. That's where I met you first in February of 92. Also, Korea, second ID, Alpha 261. I'm probably going way off on too many questions here. And 101st, I was in 1380A there, went to air assault school. Unfortunately, got selected for recruiting duty. Bad news, did that. Also some Germany, and did 2.5 years as an ROTC in Cadet Command, and rounded out there in Alpha Battery back in, 2004. 17 years retired already. Amazing.
Isn't it
So,
back on our time, right? We look back on it and you're like, it just like it flies by, right?
the time, and then they say as you get older, it goes faster. Well, of course, maybe that's perception. But when I think that I've been out for 17 years, and don't get me wrong, I wish I would have stayed. Oh, I regretted it. I really wish I would have stayed, stuck it out 30 or even 35. But because now I look back and I say, wow, those last 17 years really flew by compared to 21 years. And I was like, why didn't I just stay? Well, my knees seem to have a different opinion about whether or not I would have stayed. So, but yeah, that's kind of the long story there about how I got started. But I always knew I knew I was going to go in the military from the time I was a small kid, running around with a plastic M16. Those were the Vietnam War days when I was growing up. I always knew I was going to go. My guidance counselors in school tried to discourage me, but I would never have done it any differently, ever. And
so thanks for sharing. Tell me about jumping out of airplanes.
Well, it was, I always remember my first jump. I imagine all of us remember maybe the first and the last, right? First time, I was really surprised at how at ease I felt about it. And it was kind of funny because we had been on weather hold all day and sitting on a harness, sitting and waiting. And all of a sudden, the doors just opened. So we're going, boom, doors opened up right onto a C-130. And I was like, oh, cool. Maybe we'll fly for a little while. Barely off the ground, they give back, a 6-minute time warning. I was like, man, that was quick. And before I knew it, doors were open. And I kind of like, I can't believe I'm going to actually do this, but it was just automatic. The training was, so I watched the first guy go on the right door and I was like, man, he went. And then the remaining 9 jumpers, and then our door went, I think I was number 4, automatic. And I was like, as my chute opened, I was like, man, I can't believe I just did that. And, throughout all the years, I just jumped out of an airplane. Couldn't wait to get home and call my dad, needless to say. Tell him I really did it. So, and always loved it, man. I loved it. Of course, the second jump was C-141. So again, that was another, when the doors opened on that, you're like, okay, this is a whole different story. And my first 2 jumps in division were a UH-1. So again, that was jumps number 6 and 7 out of a UH-1. So, but I always loved it. I had some really, I know you, being air defense, of course, Stinger missile jump pack, jumped that. Did the in-flight rigging, all of, you start to realize just how hard it can be. Graduated jump master school in '93. I will admit to everybody out there, I had to go through twice. And I will look back and say, without a doubt, my greatest accomplishment, that I, felt that even going through twice, I stuck with it, I got through it, and I felt like, it made me even better. The first time I was up doing a night AJ, I was like, hey, I did PWAC 3 times. So I know what to expect. I know how to do it. But but always loved it. Got dinged up a few times. When I was a first sergeant, I broke my lower part of my pelvis, and I fought back to it. Came down to see you at JRTC that fall. About 3 weeks after I was hurt. You were down there as an OC then, and got back in November, got cleared, and went out on Saturday and did a fun jump and right back after it. So, but that was also 20 years ago.
Yeah. So tell me about the things in basic training in AIT that you were good at. Were you good with guns? Were you good with CTT? Did you march well? Were you a good PT person?
I think my strength was always in the common task field. Just like you said, it was I will admit I never was I maybe maxed one PT test in my career, so somebody had to keep, you max guys looking stronger. So I was, I always was good at the book stuff. And plus, I had a drill sergeant that a lot of you know quite well, and that was Sergeant First Class Wilbur V. Adams. So he was one of my drill sergeants, and I'll never forget that. But and needless to say, when it came to weapons qualification, I thought, hey, I'm a kid from northern Wisconsin. I can shoot anything. I can shoot a deer. I can piece of cake. Well, I get out on the range and struggle to qualify. It was strange. I was like, of course I got there, but it was a lot more challenging and humbling than I thought it would be. Of course, that was back in the M16A1 days when we didn't have the optics like are present now. But and I look back and starting basic training and OSIT base back then at 17 years old, and looking back again at that age, I think, wow, I was actually able to do that. And it was very challenging. It was never easy to see the difference. 23 years later, my daughter went through basic training, and I would say it was still challenging, but I went to her graduation. I could see that things had definitely changed over the years. And of course, they didn't have to shine boots like we did, right? Today, soldiers don't have to shine boots or press uniforms, right?
So that, that's kind of an interesting thing to contemplate. We spent pressing our uniform and shining our boots, right? If you were to give us all that time back, what would we do with it?
Oh my God. I'd have about 5 years of spending every night, with a can of spray, with a diaper. Everybody had their own methods, right? Brown t-shirt, or with a can of spray starch, soaking down some BDU.
Right.
Unless you had enough, if you had enough money to go to a shop off post, and then they could starch them where you could stand them in a corner. But yeah, I spent many nights in front of the TV, shining boots. And if it was your jump boots, woo, for a Class A inspection, but that was part of being, a paratrooper. And it's like I can imagine today that a soldier getting home, boots go in a corner, the next day yank out another uniform, no ironing or no starch, nothing like that. Definitely easier, no doubt.
It's an interesting proposition to think about. Like, if you and I had to go back to basic again, like right now, like you and I, like, put me back in the 17, 18-year-old self, put me back into basic training. But I know now already what, wouldn't that be fun, right?
Oh, that'd be great.
Wouldn't that be fun?
But a lot of stuff, again, a lot of changes. I mean, even just a lot of changes since I retired. And since things that, I imagine even more complicated than they were. Like I mentioned, even the weapons. In my job, we're not allowed to say weapons, so now I got to jumpstart myself back into saying weapon. To think how simple things were very simple. When I see, civilians purchasing ARs is very prominent, or even right before I retired, in the optics and things like that, compared to what we had in the 80s, it's quite complex. We had rear sight, front sight post, day or night. That's all we had. And to see the advancements in that is amazing.
All right, so let's take me back to a time when you're running down Ardennes. What happened?
Oh, well, again, let's break it up into the early days. My first time there, December 83 to June of 85. the unique thing then about Ardennes was the surrounding units, let's say, 35th Signal Brigade down that way, and didn't run in the division area. No, that was not that was something that didn't happen. But I do remember one particular day, not our unit, but a unit ahead of us getting into a fight with another unit on Ardennes that was not in the division, from the division. And I remember those times quite well, that that area was like off limits if you weren't in the 82nd. But always running up and down Ardennes, it was come out of the battalion area. Are we going left towards Towel Stadium, or are we going right? As a young, so even though I'm not a young, but that was always my thing, because if we're going right, we're running to All-American. If we're going left, we might be going all the way to Green Ramp. And that was always the most important thing. And nobody's turning around at the mile mark, right? No. But yeah, if I could cut.
So okay, I grew up in the same era. I got there in 87, but I know exactly what you're saying. It's like either Green Ramp or All-American. It's like hell one way and the fire of like Hades the other way,
And when you hit All-American, you could take a left and go through the woods for another couple miles, right? Go through the woods and come back. You always had those hills with the MP standing at Riley and Ardennes and everybody high-fiving the MP. But yeah, I wonder how many miles I ran in formation, incredible number, no doubt. I mean, amazing. And just,
so did you have a favorite kind of PX, or did you do like me, just go to PX and buy the cheapest you could get?
the shoes?
Yeah.
At first, nobody knew about Nike Air or any of that.
Bobos.
I just ran whatever we had until they were probably 6 years old, and they should have been changed 5.5 years before. Hey, my knees remind me of that every morning. But
so tell me about some of your mentors.
Okay, yeah, you broke up your video.
Tell me about some of your mentors.
Definitely. Obviously I'd have to start with, again, Sergeant Major Adams, Sergeant Major Dan Ridgway. I never want to forget anyone. Of course, General Jeff Underhill. I mean, incredible man. Within the division, I came up that first time, as a young private. There were still a lot of Vietnam vets hanging around, still in division. When I came back the second time, and ran into then Master Sergeant Wilbur Adams, and I was like, wow, he was my drill sergeant. And looking back at that, definitely was a huge success to follow. And I did a lot of the boards like you did, under his encouragement, I guess you would say. And Jeff, Captain Underhill was my battery commander, along with my first sergeant then was Pascal Hilton, or later Sergeant Major Hilton. So great people. And what they all were good at? Everyone there was, and what right looks like. And I always learned, General Underhill was very explicit with right place, right time, right uniform, right attitude. Simple things. Even his command philosophy as battalion commander. And I just learned from early on, what does right look like? And I had some great mentors in Germany, Command Sergeant Major Robert Fox. And again, I always feel like I'm missing somebody, but I will always gravitate back to the family of 3-4 ADAR, no doubt. That was home. will always be home. I lived many years and I stayed there for 5 years after I retired. But the brotherhood that we still have, what you keep going, is a legacy. When I saw Gary Plotnick, go to become a MACOM sergeant, command sergeant major, he was one of my platoon sergeants when I was first sergeant. And man, he just went to the top. I mean, in the Missile Defense Command, the acronyms are harder to remember today. But those are the kind of the legacy that how many senior leaders came out of that tight-knit group is amazing. Young specialists that I knew in the early 90s that later went on to be this, the command sergeant major of 3rd of the 4th. My senior gunner back in 92, Rob Sanchez, became the 108th Brigade Sergeant Major. And I was like, I remember these guys as specialists. And they all, all rose to the top. And, I'd like to think, yeah, you know what? I had a part in building that legacy as well and helping to, build it for that gen. And now those guys are all retiring, Burnley and all those, that went all the way to the top like that. But it's great to see. I wish I would have stayed, but I got to see that legacy live on in these junior guys. Audio, some choppy video, but there you go.
All right. So tell me about, being a first sergeant in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Wow. I will tell you, I can't think of any greater privilege to have had that. And what's really unique about how it happened for me was I got selected for E8 in 2001 and immediately got a call from our branch manager who said, look, they're going to promote this list in like 60 days. So I was in ending my second year at Washington University, St. Louis as a instructor. And I was getting ready to go TDY to Fort Lewis I was a sticks evaluator for the second year at Fort Lewis. And he said, you're going to Fort Bliss. Okay. And I was like, man, just like that Bliss. I mean, there was no alternative. We need, you'll be a Patriot battery first sergeant at Bliss. So the good thing about it was Teddy I was going too. So we both hit the same list. So we thought, well, Teddy will be there. That's fine. I went on my 2-month TDY, actually got promoted in the field at Fort Lewis. Pretty cool. And I got a call one day, at the school, and they said, hey, I can't remember who our branch manager was. And he just said, hey, I got an opening at Bragg. You're already jump master qualified. Before he could even finish that, I was like, yeah, I want to go there. So that's how quick it happened. Well, then, looking into it, of course, Sergeant Major Ridgway was now the sergeant major, and it said incoming battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Underhill. I'm like, wow, that was my battery commander and then a fellow platoon sergeant when I left the last time. So man, it's just God's will at work. And I mean, they could have went down a list and called the next guy and said, so yeah, instead of Bliss, I went back there and I loved it. It was a challenge. Don't get me wrong. I got there in January, February, went through Jump Master Refresher and hit the ground running. And sadly, in recent news, we lost a brother, Jerry Falk, and I replaced him as the first sergeant Alpha Battery, and gets me right here, man. I tough to see those guys are gone, and I hit the ground running, and the first thing they said is, man, you're going to JRTC in like a month. And I was like, So there was never a dull moment. In 2 years for me, it was full throttle every day. And I loved every minute of it. And I, still think would love to have been a command sergeant major. Who wouldn't? But I definitely had fulfilled a goal and could say, I started and finished in the same place. And I went to Afghanistan. We went in 2003. Dan Ridgway used to tease me about not being a member of the 4A club, right? You had to have the AA on your right shoulder. So that happened to me, in the fourth quarter of my career. But, that's always there. And that means a lot to me. And it means a lot to me to this day to say, that I had the privilege to serve at that level, with that level of responsibility. It overshadows anything that I do now and probably will ever do in the future. And I can always think the level of responsibility I had then will probably never be exceeded by anything that I do now. So.
I completely understand. I agree with you. Tell me about a time where you maybe were scared or fear or maybe tumbling towards your death or being shot at or being rolled over by a tank or I have no idea what your story is.
In Afghanistan or
wherever. I don't know.
I will tell you. This is always a funny one for me. I got back the second time in February of '92, back to Alpha Battery, and my platoon sergeant said, it was George Holden was my platoon sergeant, really old guy, old timer, and he said, "We got to get you on the jump." And I said, "Well, down at that bar, basically." I thought they said you had to have a Hollywood jump in order. I didn't care because I think you had to have a Hollywood jump to go on a task force jump. He's like, "No, you're going down there." So, it's been 6 years since I had jumped and it was raining. So, it's mass, what do we call it? Large package, 6 packs, 5 heavies, so it was 2504. First of the 04 went on the first lift and then they were going to turn and come and get us. Well, they came back and said they didn't jump. I said, "Well, we're not going to jump. It's raining." No, we took off. Everything happened. I still think we're not going to jump. Well, we jumped into my first AWODS jump. Hadn't jumped in 6 years. Clouds coming in the plane, raining, parachute open, boom, check canopy, broke through the clouds. Didn't even get a chance to think about lowering anything. Back then it was the old H harness, two hands. And I hit the ground. And Will, I'm thinking, I couldn't have been in the air for more than 10 seconds. That's what it felt like. And I was landed with everything. And I was like, man, what just happened? That was how fast it was. So yeah, the adrenaline kind of pushed back the fear, but that was definitely, my pre-jump master days. That was a scare. And I heard, somebody screaming, hurt and all this. And I'm like, that was one of the scariest ones ever. But again, it's automatic, right? It all happens automatic.
So you already kind of mentioned a little bit of it, but I would love it because I think you bring a unique perspective, right? Tell me about failing jump master school and then passing it the second time or reentry or however you did it. Tell me about that, if you don't mind. I know that's hugely difficult, dude. That's a tough question, right?
Well, you're going to love this. Look, I thought of this morning. I said, somewhere I got to put this story in. I went through, let's say April 93. And I got to PWAC. And my first day of PWAC, we jumped into Rhine-Lausanne. And everything went well. It was a long ride back. I mean, as you know, so that's perfect. I'm good. Well, Black Hat said, no, your foot moved slightly before I had control of the static line. And I was like, wow, of course, I don't remember that happening. I remember him writing on the clipboard, with, you guys said that two-sided pencil. Red and blue pencil. I said, okay, it was hard knowing I'd had to go through student station time again. Well, day 2, they had the guy I was a primary, left door, Teddy AJ, right door, same class as me, Sicily. Now, guess who my black hat evaluator was? You know who it probably was. 93, Robert Maggot. Was my evaluator. 6 of us had a retest that day, and with jumpers. So now I had jumpers, and Teddy and I were in sync, man, like old veterans, right? Like we've been doing this all day. Everything went smooth. Jumpers exited. Teddy went out. I went out. We met up on the DZ. Oh, I got it, right? I'm good. So we get back to green ramp, and old Fuddy says, hey, Sergeant Brietzke, you would have been the only go on that door today. Well, I was like, uh-oh. He's like, yeah, but you exited before your AJ. And I said, but I landed farther down the drop zone than he did, but that was tough. He gave me a re-entry slip. So, I wasn't a JMPI fail. I was the rare PWAC fail. And I had to go back through the whole shooting match, man. I had to go back through the whole thing.
And Mags is the guy that did that when you were.
Yeah. So I was fun. I went back through the whole torture of what do we call it? Walk through, talk through, JMPI, circles, the whole thing. And I got to now my third go at PWAC, left door Sicily again. And the instructor, when we got up there, he said, you look awfully calm. I said, well, it's not my first time. And it was actually my third time doing it. And of course, I couldn't get he said, you'd have been a perfect score if you weren't a re-entry. So, but that again was a thing. And to kind of on that subject, I had failed air assault school the first time through. In what everybody was said was not the rigging and sling loading phase, which was typically what got everybody, but the rappelling phase. And in the 101st, units were graded by percentage of air assault qualified personnel within at any one time. And of course, the goal was to get that 90% streamer. And I took that one really hard. I was just got promoted to sergeant, had never failed anything in the Army. And that was very humbling. But again, it's all about picking myself up. Couldn't go back to air assault the next cycle. So I had to I went to PLDC as honor grad, leadership award winner. And, the sergeant major said to me that day at graduation, he said, hey, you need to take some time off and, great job. I said, no, I got unfinished business. And I was back at air assault school Monday morning for rappel phase. Man, that is the same with Jumpmaster school. And when I went back through Jumpmaster school and, went overtime on the first JMPI test, like you very well know, it's tough. I read your essay about Colonel Woods, and I thought to myself that night, where am I going to find that time? Where am I going to find that 20-second? But I did it. And, that certificate, like I said, is always going to be first and foremost. And I actually got back. First Sergeant Martinez was my first sergeant that day. And I stuck the certificate under my BDU top, walked into the mess hall, kind of hanging my head. And he looked, and then I pulled that certificate out, man. He got up, came up to the head count table and shook my hand, But, I think it's a life lesson that maybe future generation, I shouldn't say that, but, they call it the trophy generation. Everybody gets participation award. And, I took that as, both of those events were hard hitting. And Jumpmaster schools is mentally and physically taxing. And I'm like, man, I got to go through that whole thing again. How quickly can I get back there? That was I'm not going to let it beat me. And that, I think it applies, it applies across the board in life. And a great lesson. I shouldn't say I wanted to fail, but when I looked back, I was all the more proficient with that much additional training. If there was a silver lining, it's still tough.
Hey, Matt, take a minute if you don't mind. Part of this is a memories for our family, right? Our kids
Right.
and our grandkids. Tell me a little bit about your patriotism, but as much as a message to your kids and grandkids as it is to tell me about your patriotism. You know what I mean? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, going back to how I first felt at a young age, even, going through the photos of my father being in the military and my uncles, and, maybe a lot of that history didn't live in a lot of the old black and white photographs, but still learning, hearing the stories. I felt, and as my kids and grandchildren listen to this, maybe long after I'm gone, I felt an obligation to serve. Not like, well, I think I will, but in my heart, I felt my duty to serve my country. My patriotism is rooted in the thoughts, as we reflect now on Memorial Day, of the generations of young men and women, let's say, that hit the beaches at Normandy coming up here, 77 years ago on June 6th, that never got the chance to come home. And as I toured cemeteries in Europe, in Luxembourg, General Patton, huge hero of mine, I wanted to see where he was buried. And I thought about how many of these young men never came home. And when I see, people exercising freedom of speech, I think as the time has gone by, where I hold that in my patriotism, we hold that sacred, but I think unfortunately too many people have forgotten the price that was paid so people could be allowed to do that, so people can have that. And I believe President Reagan said, our freedom is only a generation from being gone, or something to that effect. And that hits me still to this day. You stand for the flag, you put your hand over your heart. I can hardly go to a professional sports event anymore because I'm afraid of getting mad when somebody doesn't take their hat off or stand for the flag. And when it's all wrapped up into anything with, if you joined for college money or bonus or whatever, in the end, the common denominator is everybody is serving their country. I mean, and that's how I felt at 17 years old. Not like, yeah, I think I'll do that. No, I'm going to do what a lot of those did before us. And I'm going to do my part for our country and to preserve that. And I think, I hope, again, as you kids listen to this in the future, you will understand that's always how I felt and always will feel. And it gave me great pride to see my daughter follow. She joined the National Guard as an MP. I told her she was going to get activated. She said, I'm going to take a semester off college, those famous words. I said, guess what? You're going to get activated. You're a female MP. 60 days later, she was on her way to Iraq. To go to her basic training graduation and to see her come home, having been attached to the 101st, wearing the Screaming Eagle combat badge. She was born at Blanchfield Army Hospital on Fort Campbell. So I thought that was, she's wearing that. And to see that carry forward into that generation, another generation of my family do, that means a lot to me. And it's troubling. I know we all see the news. It's troubling that to think that it's different now. Maybe people don't feel how precious that freedom is and how quickly it could be taken away. I hope, again, long into the future, when someone else views this, I hope that it's not so. I get long-winded, don't I, man?
No, not at all, man. So it's interesting. We always think that we talk too long or whatever, but when we listen back to ourselves, it's like, okay, all right, I was not as much of an idiot as I thought I was, right? Yeah. Yeah. You're good. You're good. Keep it up. Keep it up. So tell me about a truck, a soldier, a vehicle, or a weapon that drove you nuts.
Okay, now let me get this. I don't know if you were right on the fringes of this. If you remember the M561 Gamma Goat, you might have missed that one.
Oh, I remember the Gamma Goat, dude.
That was the prime mover, you know, in the Toad Vulcan days. And I don't know who designed it, and I don't know what got the Army to buy it, but it's probably part of the reason I wear hearing aids now. Because it was awful. It drove me crazy. The heaters never worked. Getting in and out of them with an LBE was, you had to be a contortionist and try it and mop for it. You got wet, you got cold. They were terrible, loud, just a miserable thing. And I always remember that. Soldiers that drove me crazy, I could probably go on for a couple of days, but especially during my first sergeant years. And one of the hardest things was with soldiers in general, and was certain things just beyond your control, that what happens after duty hours type of things that you had no control over. But, I told someone today, I said, in that case, no matter what, you were always responsible for what happened or failed to happen. 100%. Those were always some tough things. Weapon, I can't say. I will tell you, I loved the Vulcan, loved it. And when it went away, it was a hard transition when it was gone. And it was kind of tough when I went back to third or the fourth back in 92 when I got back, and there was one sitting in front of a battalion. And I was like, you need some love, man. You need some love, baby girl. That thing was looking rough. The seat wasn't locked in, and it was just, I think there might still be one in front of the Division Museum, but yeah, I will say the Gamma Goat, bad news. Glad to see him go, because when the Humvees rolled in, man, they had one thing I never had, a heater. So.
All right. So if you could go back and live 1 year of your Army life again, where would you go? What time would it be?
I can answer that easily. And I would go back to 2003. Stepped off that C-17 in Kandahar. And I would go back and stretch that year into like 3 years. Because I was going through a transition in my life. I was single, or on the way to being single, and I went early with one of the platoons, and I suddenly found myself in a situation where there was no distractions. Everybody was there. I didn't have anybody getting in trouble. All the supporting systems were there for me to do everything I had to do as a first sergeant. And strangely as it sounds, despite rocket attacks or the fact that you're in a third world country with people that would rather kill you than look at you in a lot of cases, it wasn't that bad. I was fortunate, and I often said, as soon as we got back and started dealing with the problems that come along with people coming back, redeploying, off time, getting in trouble, I said, wow, it was easier to be over there. But I really did love that last, which was really essentially pretty much my last year or so, last year and a half, was really the most enjoyable out of all those years.
That's so awesome, right? The memories that we have back when our teams had little distractions, right? When you were
exactly,
and your team had few distractions, that was the best times, right? The best.
And Korea was similar. When I was in Korea in 85, 86, I was Alpha Battery 261, we rotated through cycles of being on hot platoon, and we did our job all the time. We didn't cut grass. We, when I first got there, we had live ammo. I was on the SP Vulcan. It was the only time we had live ammo ready to roll. North Korea is just up the road. I was way up on a RC4. And when I got to the 101st after that, I said, man, you can do pre-fire checks like crazy. Yeah, said, yeah, because they're here. They're not, because that's all we did constantly. We didn't have all those distractions. And that's a perfect word. There were no distractions. Nobody was getting DUIs or anything like that.
So do me a favor. So this is something that I just hadn't thought about in a little while, but as a Vulcan senior gunner, your pre-fire checks, that was like, I mean, come on, dude. If you memorized your pre-fire checks, you were the man.
Yeah, and on the A1, not the PIVADs. I had to learn PIVADs as an E6, but on the A1, that was the deal. You were the, not just a senior gunner, but our squad, our crew drills were poetry in motion. It was the most synchronized thing that I ever had. You had to put it together. You had to walk through it, rehearse it. But a senior gunner that could, just bam and call out those checks. I took a lot of pride in that. And looking back, sometimes I'm like, man, how did we ever get that to all come together? You know what? We trained hard on it. We practiced it all the time. And again, Korea really set the foundation for that for me. And when we 2 times at Fort Campbell, I don't like to brag, but my squad won Top Gun twice at Fort Campbell. And we all really loved ammo upload. Ammo upload was where you separated men from the boys, right? Boom, hanging, right? And we did about a 3-minute, 5-second something ammo upload. I could do an ammo upload, not to brag. I could do an ammo upload today. I remember the sequence so well. And the evaluator said, bam, when we, firing contact, connected, army connector on, boom, boom, done. He said, damn, Sard, that was smooth. And those were the kind of moments I lived for. I loved, you thrived on that competition. It was always, and when the Avenger came along, it didn't quite have the stingers, because how us Vulcan guys, stingers were our, almost our adversaries, and man, it just didn't have that same sync to it. It didn't have that all those the synchronization and the competition. It just wasn't quite the same for me. But yeah, I could still probably tune a radar to the receiver transmitter, boom, tune, course tune. And I'm thinking, how do I remember that 40 years later? I can't really remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember.
It's crazy, right? Our lives, all right. So repetition, we would go, how many hours did we spend down in that motor pool, right? How many hours did we spend practicing crew drills? How important was it when we went to Sea Range, or we went to, or to over to Camp Lejeune, or to Fort Bliss, right? I mean, dude, best squad competition, that was like, dude, you better stick your chest out, Mofrakis, because we're coming for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was right. It was right, down to the wire, seconds. One of my favorite ones still would be the defeated look of the individual that could not get the generator to start. So you remember how we used to pre-position the rope? You'd have the rope wrapped, right? And you're doing that last talk. All right, look, man, when I get out and I move you forward, remember, you that last run through. And I can remember, of course, everybody else is watching. Who's going, man? Who's next? And the generator comes out and brr, sounds like that dead lawnmower. And the first thing you think, man, flip. Yeah, and then you had to wrap the rope. There's your time going. And I saw defeat just creeping into people's eyes, like, oh man, the generator won't start. Looking for a timeout. Hey, the generator. Or you run with the generator and yank the cable out, because you don't put the brakes on fast enough. And it was intense. And, you know, again, the last time I did it was in 93. And man, it was just always, I was in a platoon with, you know, Terry Rayner, you know, great mentor of yours. Love the guy, man. And we would compete over how fast we could do the A1 check by memory on the pivot. Man, everybody had it memorized. You didn't have a book. It was here. And you know, that I those days, Will, were the, you know, hanging them belts to 20 millimeter and you know, pushing that arming switch, man, those were good days.
Right.
So,
sitting on the back of the tub with an arming switch and a red and white paddle, whooping on heads, you know, like, get back in, get in the range fan, get in the range. All right, now you can fire. And they would be shooting rounds all over the place, right?
Oh my God. Or look up and see the streaker aircraft. I was looking down through the sight where we had that dual sight thing where the squad leader could look. And, you know, I heard the squad to my right fire, and then Sanchez didn't fire. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, look up. And I looked, and the bird was on fire. It had been shot down. It was laying out there on, I think it was Site 4 we used to use at Fort Bliss, and it was like burning up. I said, well, they know we can hit that fast mover. They shot the wrong. Yeah, man, those were some awesome times. You know, as you get up there in rank, of course, that hands-on at that level, of course, goes away. But even as a platoon sergeant, and just to get live fires in Germany for each one of I had 6 Avengers in that platoon, and to see every one of those young kids get a missile, every single one of them, and shoot those big 5th scale drones, man, and to get that experience of a lifetime, to say, you know, they got to shoot a live missile, you know, something I never got to do, but that ultimate, you know, sits, and I'd be sitting on a hill somewhere behind a range with binos, man, come on, launch, and to get those direct hits and to see them thrilled over that, those were some great times. And I'm still that competitive. I'm absolutely 100% still that competitive in just about everything.
So take me back to ORS. Do you remember ORS?
Oh my God, ORS was, yeah. See, that was a whole animal in and of itself. To the point, Will, where being at a shooting range, I stock a lot of ammo, and of course, I went through every level of AMO school that there was, from load planners and hazmat and all those different schools. I'll see the other regulated material Delta label or the 1.4 Sierra explosives label on an ammo box. And I'll try to explain to somebody, hey, that's ORM. And they're like, what? Man, I can recognize a hazmat label. And how much work? Oh, it was a lot of work every single time. I mean, I think we must have put 4 weeks sometimes into that. And that was a Super Bowl event. I've seen you write about it, and I'm thinking he's right on the money with it. That was, how can you say, you know, the famous word, that was a zero defect environment. But you, to be in the 82nd, it had to be that way. I mean, there's no doubt that, you know, I'm not putting this thing on an aircraft with oil leaking out of it, or a brake line off, or my load plan off. It was tough, but again, it was satisfying. Always managed to get through it. Everybody knew how important it was. Not that it was easy, but down to the lowest private, even I was a private, you knew how big that was. You know, and I can remember I spent a lot of time in that motor pool from formation, didn't even go to lunch. And one of the longest days I ever spent was painting the new plastic fuel cans we got. And I had, if you remember, we had the old metal cans, and then they said, nope, got plastic. And well, they had to be painted both sides, or maybe all 4 sides, you know, gasoline, flammable, and the flash point. I painted probably 50 fuel cans that day. One side, leaned them against the fence, turned them around, other side. I mean, those are the kinds of things that had to be right every single time.
Amen, brother.
And
Amen.
that was and still that attention to detail. We put a lot of work in attention to in every area: air movement, vehicle maintenance, load planning, small arms maintenance. I catch myself to this day. People ask me at the range or as an instructor, they say, how often should I clean my firearm? Well, I'll tell you, I said, I was in the Army. If we took it out and looked at it, we cleaned it. Now, I said, with you, it may be a personal preference, but I said, I did it so much, it's automatic for me. I mean, if I take it out and shoot one round, I'm going to clean it. But again, long-winded, but yeah, ORS was a high visibility thing that you didn't want to fail. And I never,
oh no, you definitely didn't want to fail. So tell me a little bit about the transition out of the military, retirement and such. How I've honestly seen you express some frustration at times,
Yeah, I look back and I realize I kind of made a knee-jerk reaction. My father died suddenly not long after we got back from Afghanistan. And I was kind of the sole surviving family member. My stepmother passed away, my brother passed away, and that got thrust on me like double barrel. I mean, just like boom. So I kind of got shuffled out of the, not shuffled out of the unit, but I had to make a couple trips home, and I got to a point where I thought, man, I wanted to go to JRTC to be the first sergeant down there at some point. But actually, I think Jerry Falk went. I believe he went to take that spot. And I got a job offer from Raytheon just out of the blue to work on some of their air defense simulator. And I took that job early on and retired. And I would say within 2 months, I was like, why did I do that? Because all along, and I could give you examples of today, just today, I have found that it's hard to apply the same style of leadership. I have not seen, again, being very young, think about my first job really was being a soldier. What does right look like? Well, all of a sudden I found myself in an environment where the people I worked with, though at Bragg, that was contractor there, most of them were retirees. Right was no longer the same.
Right.
And expressing that was taken differently. Especially as a retiree, some of the people had done, one tour that I worked with, and they didn't want to hear that. And as I progressed, when we moved to Wisconsin, and I worked at Fort McCoy for quite a few years, that was where the struggle was. It's not the same standard. You cannot, how can I say it? You can't force that same standard on anybody. And I always tried to say, hey, this isn't right. Well, no, that's, it's 5 o'clock. We're out of here. See you later. And that's been the biggest struggle, even to this day, in attempting to lead and manage people. In my humble opinion, it just doesn't work the same way. And I've had my supervisors tell me, this isn't the military. Well, yeah, I know. It definitely isn't. So, again, in retrospect, I would have stayed.
So did you have a cherry party?
Did I have a party?
Did you have a cherry party?
No, I don't remember. I saw some, but I never really got, I'm not sure why. I saw some pretty good beat downs in back in the 90s when I don't know if you remember when the pink belly thing was the big thing.
Bellies, baby. I watched some guys get thrown out of the wall lockers on the second floor with the wall locker. and I've seen the big water balloons. So tell me your Charlie 9349 story. Tell me a story about the old barracks, man.
Oh, one of the things that I always remember, of course, is being on staff duty. Now, again, this would be during my second time on staff duty, and someone was taking a leak out of the third story window when I walked around the building. And I was like, whoa, it's not raining, because, with the common bathrooms, they had to go down. Well, I'm not going down the hallway. And then over the years, even when I got back as a first sergeant, I was like, yeah, I know what that stain is coming down the side of the building. Oh, I had the living in the barracks, and it's funny how it didn't change from my first tour, second tour, third tour. I could always go see where my room was the first time. A couple of times on staff duty, one time waking up a soldier sleeping in the hallway, no pillow, no blanket, head on a tile. Back then it was highly shined tile. Like, why are you sleeping here? I lost my key. I don't know, like, but he was good to go, man. He was sleeping on that highly shined paste wax floor. But yeah, those were, and to see the videos after they were torn down, that was a heartbreaker. To really see that. I remember walking up that sidewalk the first day from what was then the battalion headquarters, which would have been where the battalion headquarters was when you were there. And walking down that sidewalk, and a window flying open on the second floor, and it said, somebody yelled out, "Cherry, new meat, go home, Cherry." And then to say years later, looking up walking that same sidewalk between Bravo and Charlie's formation area, and yeah, it's sad to see that it's all gone.
We were soldiers once, and young, right?
And young, I know. And I told First Sergeant Martinez once when I graduated from Jump Master School, I said, this is the new generation of jump. I was 27 years old, right, man? This is a new generation. We are the young guns. And I said, man, I see First Sergeant Martinez on Facebook, lifting a Buick. And I'm thinking, this guy's got to be in his 60s. And I used to talk crap to him about being a young gun. And it was
he's deadlifting like 7,000 pounds, man.
Yeah, and competitive. And I'm like, timeless, because I know he's got to be 64, something like that. But great to see, really great to see. And I try to stay. I got a personal trainer right now, and try to always stay as active. And you got to find different ways to make. Some things just don't work the same anymore. And I kind of got out of that trying to punish myself to force myself to run. And it finally just like went to the doctor, and I had a torn meniscus. I got into karate for a couple of years, and I blew up a meniscus. And when I got out of the surgery, he's like, you don't mind me asking, what have you done throughout your life? Your knees. I cleaned up some other stuff in there. I said, I jumped out of airplanes, man. He said, I thought something like that. He said, because I had to clean up some other stuff while I was in there. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to get the determination if I have to have knee replacement. So, but yeah, we were once young, but.
So tell me about your favorite boots.
My favorite boots were always jungle boots, I think. Back we had the green ones, and I can remember getting my first pair of those like out of basic AIT jump school, and that was, you're thinking, wow, that was a badge of honor. Then I got jungle boots, and then of course they came out with the black ones, which kind of made sense, I guess. Yeah, though, and of course the Cochrane jump boots. I mean, you kind of had a bond to those. Like the identity of being a paratrooper was always connected. And I remember Dan Ridgway, Sergeant Major Ridgway, always wore jump boots, field, BDU, normal duty day. That it was symbolic, and even wearing them in Class A's, which I believe they still do, even though greens are gone, but you still see that. And that's you can't ever not, put Cochrane's first, I think. Yeah. But
So tell me about a battle buddy of yours. You mentioned Teddy Knight a couple of times. That's the one. Tell me another battle buddy.
Teddy, Terry Rayner, Mike Cooper is definitely number one. I hate to say anybody, but Mike and I had the unique opportunity. We went through, reception station, basic and AIT, jump school. I think I counted, we were in 6 units together over the time. We were in Alpha Battery 3-4, Alpha Battery 261, Korea, got there the same day. Both re-enlisted for Fort Campbell, went to Fort Campbell. Then he went to Germany. I went to Korea, or I went to recruiting command. He came back from Germany, back to Bragg. I was back at Bragg. So and then we both went to Germany together, same unit, same battery in Germany the second time around. And we have a bond even to this day. I talk to him almost every day. He was like the big brother taking care of a young kid in basic and AIT. He was a little older and always looked out for me. Always like family. Same as Teddy, same as Terry. I think I could call any of those guys right now and be like, "Hey, I need you to come here," and they would. And Mike has also struggled with leukemia for about 10 years. He's going through another tough time right now. But there's so many along the way. And like I said earlier, man, we've seen them go, Will, to see RV Flag go was hard for me. A good friend, we were in the same platoon, Flag went, and some of the guys, and I think now I'm trying to think of who else has passed, but what you're doing and what's so important to keep us together before sometimes you regret the fact that, man, I wish I would have called that guy when I thought about it last week. Bruce Lucier, he was my last first sergeant before I went to Germany. These guys are gone, and then it's too late. First Sergeant Anthony Ortiz, he passed away not long after I had gotten back to division, and Joe Stout was there. He had come up from JRTC, and it's even in my family, I always think funerals become impromptu reunions. But it's too late. That it's sad that it has to be someone passing away that brings that about. But there are more people than I could ever name, at some level, than I could ever name. That is what's so important to that brotherhood. Again, nothing will ever supplant that brotherhood, that we all had unique opportunity to be the only airborne air defense artillery battalion in the world. And
that was cool, wasn't it? That was really cool, man.
That was amazing. When we had so many battle streamers on that guidon, and I went to Gettysburg in 2006, and I stood on the point where A battery, 3rd, artillery.
I went with there.
Is that not the coolest to think my unit traced its lineage to here, to this spot on the battlefield?
Yes.
And even farther back to become the most decorated unit in the 82nd Airborne Division at that time. And it was incredible. And that legacy, like I said, think about, they weren't just at Gettysburg hanging out. They were at the spear point of the Confederate attack, high water mark. And I'm a big history buff as well, and that was awesome to go there and see that. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I guess looking back on it, we jumped all over the world. We did field trips all over the world. we deployed, it's just amazing. But the neat thing about it is, right, you and I and everybody that were coming up together, in a way, we were like competitors with one another. We wanted to do better than the other one on the little competitions and all that other stuff, kind of in a way. But in another way, we knew that we were all battle buddies. In another way, we knew we all had each other's backs. And in a way, we knew that we were going to tear up cattlemen's together. Were you at Cattle? You were there, right?
I was not at that one. No, I think we were on DRF1 at that. But that, trust me, is a story that lives on in the lore of that. That is one of the, for any of us that were there during that time frame. Oh my God, trust me, you wrote about it. You have captured that event for the archives of it. That should be printed and locked in a safe somewhere so that they can open.
So all right. So I started this because Maggot has got something, and I'm talking to him again. I think it's the end of next week. I'm talking to him and Carmen again. We're going to do another interview, but his head is not right. He's like doing Groundhog Day over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then I had a soldier that passed away. He had throat cancer. I was his first sergeant. He was a sergeant of mine. He came from PFC to sergeant with me in a 3-year time period. And he passed away with throat cancer recently. And I wasn't able to interview him or talk to him. And that's what got me doing these again. We've made a coin. We've got a big box, and we got a t-shirt. Did you get your t-shirt yet?
I did. It's awesome.
Yay. Okay. And we're just trying to capture our stories before they're gone, exactly what you're doing. And this is so much fun. So as part of that, before we get off of here, and I'm not saying we got to end anytime soon, but I want to get you to salute and report, report in. And then I want you to call your unit to attention. And then I want you to sign out, when you report somewhere, it would be cool if you were to get like your hometown, I don't know. Think about that.
I think I saw Joe Stout do his. So
yeah. So you can do that now. You can do that later. I just want to make sure you got that in your head, so you can think. And
then I need to get some pictures together, correct?
Okay. So yeah. So here's the thing. All right. I'm trying to make it so that, by golly, if tomorrow you come out with a diagnosis of freaking brain cancer or something, you can't talk anymore, that, dude, I've got your story. We've kind of talked. We got
that's awesome.
Synopsis of it. And, and then we have it on a thumb drive. And then I'm going to take up to 20 pictures of yours and make a slideshow, a nice slideshow. And that'll be for your memorial service. And I'm going to get you saluting and signing in where your hometown is, call your unit to attention, and sign out. And so that your family will always have those memories, a video of you saluting and saying whatever comes out of your mouth, And I think there's a lot of value in that, right? That's just what your grandkids are going to want to say. They're going to say, this is my granddad. Look at that guy, He was a jump master, And then they won't have a clue what it is, really, but just that you're the badass that you are, right? And that's what it's about, right? That's what it's about. Nobody understands the pressure of jump master school, except for those that have gone through it. There's no way to explain it. You can't say, well, imagine the SATs, but only like with a time. No, you cannot explain it. Even combat lifesaver course. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. I loved your story about the guy that goed on PWAC, or was he an up-and-coming battalion commander?
Yeah, dude.
Man, that had to be
dude, I cried for an hour. I walked around all those. Dude, that was Dude, that was tough, dude. On a sergeant, I was an E5, man. I was an E5. That was crazy, man. That was wild times, man.
Well, I know the pressure that was on, like for me, I thought I'm going to go before I'm an E7 because I don't want to have the pressure of you got to make it to be a platoon sergeant or first sergeant. Then I'm going to get it now. And I saw the lieutenant colonel going through there whose battalion command rested on whether he passed. And I'm like, wow, that was tough to see the pressure on those guys. And then the pressure on you guys knowing that, hey, like your told you your boss is coming to school. So
yeah,
that's why when
coming to school, I'm like, oh, okay, you know.
When Maggot failed me, I was just like, man, dang. I thought, and then what's funny, let me tell you this one, Will. When I went back, Maggot was at Black Hat again. He had gone back the second time. When I went through Jump Master Refresher, I'm like, man, he's back here. He's a legend down here. So Ridgeway, Dan had hooked us up. Hey, you want to go jump with Jump Master School? I'm like, yeah, we jumped in a staff duty driver, took us down there. Well, no, Maggot was back in the battalion, but he knew everybody down there. And I said, man, I said, man, do you remember in 93, this is 9 years have gone by, go me at PWAC day 2, man. He's like, if I did, you must have done something wrong. And I said, to this day, I will still say till my dying day, no, I exited after Teddy. But that's now what is it, got 20, 30 years ago? So we got shooted up, and Maggot had some of his platoon there jumping with us. And I thought, oh, I know where this is going. He JMPI'd me, Will, and he gave me a seal of approval that would have hurt Mike Tyson.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I don't show anybody it hurt, but man, it hurt. I was just like, it was like, you know how he is, man. It was like, bam. Oh, it's good. It's funny how it all came full. And I couldn't let it rest. If I saw him today, I'd be like, do you remember? No.
Hey, there's a spot on your inner thigh, and you know exactly where I'm talking about. That I know where it is, and I can pop it. Okay, I can pop it good, and if I want to, I can hurt you. Yeah.
It cracked. It was like the first time I got hit with a pink belly, and my eyes rolled back in my head, and every hit after that was meaningless because it didn't hurt anymore. Yeah, but
I knew we were gonna have so much fun tonight. I knew it.
Oh man, I love it. Because so many, you can tell people things, but the common denominator, for us having been the same MOS, the same unit, I love reading your story. You need to understand how important, I know for me, how important that those essays are, be it long or short, man, that I know a lot of us look forward to that. I guarantee that is it means a lot, man. You're holding a legacy together, and you're recapturing the memories and preserving that. So,
thank you so much, dude. It's so much fun, right, to be able to have an audience, right? Mm-hmm. And we do. In a way, that little third of the fourth group, in a way, is a little audience, because it's a little microcosm of the world of. Dude, there's not too many of us. There's not too many of us that jump pack out of an airplane, right?
No, unless you wrote about the 5'8", how'd you say, stretching to hit it or crouching?
Oh yeah, right. Remember, dude, you had people that be like, shit, if I'm tall enough, I don't think I'm tall enough. I'm like, dude, you're 5'11". They're like, shit. No.
Yeah. And you could see one of the things I loved, after I became a jump master, and jumping with a task force was amazing. When I became a platoon sergeant, they didn't want to touch that thing. I'll do a Dragon missile AT-4, but this thing, and I remember having two teams in front of me, and as the 88 jump master, the Stinger jump, I wasn't jump master duties on the aircraft, but I had to hook them boys up. And, you know, they were looking at you 100%. Those guys from my platoon, man, you know, you got this right. And I'd grab, look, remember this, remember this. There was 5 steps to hooking it up. If it doesn't lower, here's what I want you to do. Boom, boom. And to really, you know, those are such satisfying moments, man. Like, all right, you're good. You're going to be just fine. You know, next guy, stand them up, you know, get them hooked up, ready to go. You know, and you talk about unique. So now you break it down to, you know, airborne and stinger and who's tall enough. And those are things that make you think it's a legacy and it's a history. But eventually, you know, that us Vulcan guys will only be a memory. Well, they will all have been, you know, remember so and so, and that there are no more. There's only like our World War II heroes. It's, you know, but I want to tell you one more funny story. I saved this one for you because you'll love it. You know, we all love the bear. Love staying in touch with him now. I was a safety on a SMJP proficiency jump with engine running onload follow-ups on Holland. So I safetied the initial chalk into Holland, chalk 1, and then chalk 3, I actually got out, shoot it up, and jumped the stinger on chalk 3. Well, anyway, I was Sergeant Major Adams safety. All right, so everything's normal. I think it was multi-pass. I think multiple, stingers on the first pass, and then so coming in on the second pass, you know, I'm taking static lines and red light pops on. So again, remember how we talked about deliberate, automatic, boom, red light's on, boom, 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 threw up my hand, boom, red light, while my hand was in the bear's chest. The look in his eyes said that he wanted to rip my hand off because he said his eyes got real big. I was like, oh man. He said, like, I was scared. I was like, because everybody else was gone except him and me. I was like, Sergeant Major, it was red. He's like, it wasn't red. So, we went around and I said, look, you know, I'm a by the book guy. We got vehicles and fire trucks. I don't want you landing on a fire truck. I was thinking as fast as I could. So we came around and I said, Sergeant Major, just wait like 9 or 10 seconds into the green light. Don't go right away. I said, I'll tap you. I'll count. So of course now he's back when we were still standing in the door. He's standing in the door. And again, my reflexes took over. Green light popped on. I said, go. And he went. I thought, oh man, he's way on the lead edge. I meant to put him over. So to this day, if I were to go on Facebook today, 28 years later, and say, Sergeant Major, the light was red, he'll come back with, no, the light was green. So after I retired, I went to the 88 ball at the Holiday Inn at Bragg, and Sergeant Major Adams, you know, showed up behind me in line. He was also working for Raytheon at the time, retired, and he gave the speech. And in the middle of that speech, Teddy was there, and a lot of us. He said, "And Brietzke, the light was green." And I said, "No." I yelled back, "It was red." So whenever I talk to him now, the light was always green. So
that's amazing. The stories that we have in the times
I
we
know.
spent together. I just love it. It's wonderful, right?
It's like the cattleman's thing is legendary, and all those. And, you know, every time we went down there, something got tore up. Something got broken. But everybody was on that firing line the next morning and lifting those 98-pound cans and, you know, scooping up brass and links for 10 hours afterwards. And loved it, man. Loved it. We didn't get to do that enough. Those are some of the best days. So,
amen to that. Amen to that. So that's something, you remember, Bravo said when they sounded off, they sounded Bravo, and Charlie had Cold Steel prepared to move forward. What did Alpha Battery sound off with?
You know, I was afraid you were going to ask that. I think it's Assassins. We were Assassin Battery. And I don't remember for sure. I know Charlie was always cold steel, prepare to move forward, because Teddy took that slogan, that sound off to Fort Bliss to a Patriot banner. And he told me he stole it from Charlie. I think we said assassins. Gosh, I feel bad. My some of those I can remember some things, and some things I can't. What does it say up there? Yeah, it's assassin. that guidon was our guidon in Afghanistan. That's why it's faded like that. So that has historic.
I love it.
That was actually from him, and Gary Plotnick put that together for me.
So tell me about a memorial service. Did you ever have to do a memorial service?
I never did color guard. I remember Anthony Ortiz's. He had been my first sergeant, and he had been Terry Rayner's drill sergeant. The hardest thing was my dad's was tough. It was a very cold, windy, snowy day in Wisconsin, and I was still, but this was before I retired, I was still the first sergeant, and I remember because of Iraq, they had minimized the support from the National Guard was 2 people, and what they did was fold the flag. But my dad's Legion post did the, with old M1s, did the salute. And that was, both of my kids were there. And, I don't think there's anybody, the hardest person in the world, that when they hear taps, wouldn't be close to tears. But I remember when these 2 young soldiers from the Wisconsin National Guard did a brilliant job, and handed me the flag and said, addressed me as first sergeant. I always remember that. And I handed that flag immediately to my son, who still has it. And that was tough. That was, not that any funeral is easy, but to see those gentlemen who back then, 18, 19 years ago, World War II and Korea veterans, small town, to do that, I guess, never having actually done one as a color guard detail, but that was amazing to see and be a part of.
Do me a favor. Let's do the salute, and
okay.
Let's get out real quick. Maybe you stand up, maybe you stay seated, maybe I don't know. You tell me what you feel like.
I was gonna look at my stand. How's the view?
Look at you, man. Look at you, looking good.
Yeah. I try, man. I try. Oh. So you want me to say like First Sergeant Brietzke
reports from
and then
Wisconsin or whatever it is,
and then like call battery to attention.
Yeah, give me battery attention. Yeah, and then signing out. Matt Brietzke signing out or whatever it is. I don't know.
Okay.
You could also say just whatever.
First Sergeant Matthew Brietzke, Merrill, Wisconsin, reports. Battery! Attention! First Sergeant Matthew Brietzke, signing out.
That was the best one yet. Yay! That was perfect. It couldn't have been any better. That was absolutely perfect, dude. Yeah, that's the model. I'm going to tell everybody that.
You know Joe Stout's the model. Come on, Joe Stout's.
Oh my gosh. Right. Hey, talking about that, weren't there some characters that we were around, Joe Stout, oh my gosh, just Cuddy. You remember when Cuddy was around for Sergeant Kendrick or Sergeant Major Kendrick? all the commanders and different ones we had just so many cool people around us, right?
Oh, I remember Sean Lear during my second time there, Lear and Don Velasco, and you see him and First Sergeant Martinez going at it on Facebook over the politics. Man, I'm like, come on! I even jumped in. Come on, guys, we're all friends. They're going at it.
They're like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, man.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, guys. Velasco poking and Martinez and they were, and again, legends, man, mentors, great people. I use that word, that teach, coach, mentor phrase a lot. And those were the guys. First Sergeant Hilton was, we said things back then and had cadences back then and terms back then that you would never say, even come close to saying when Teddy and I got to Germany in 96 and Cooper, we all got there at the same time. And man, they looked at us like, you airborne guys are crazy. So we were at a brigade level. Teddy and I were we were all in HHB 69th 88 Brigade. We did not belong there. I'm sorry. We would lead PT and they're like, man, we don't need them airborne guys leading PT. Well, Teddy busted out with a cadence one day, and the brigade EO guy came up next to him and said, man, you can't be singing this. So what we did in the 80s, Will, I can't even imagine where that would measure now. Oh my God. I mean, it was ruthless. I mean,
so what's your favorite cadence?
Oh man, what do you remember? The old up jump the monkey from a coconut grove? Oh my God. You couldn't say that now. I always love that one. Of course, C-130 rolling down the strip. Well, probably the most abused cadence in the Army because those legs say, jump right out on the count of 4. No, man, it's jump right out of count of 4. You know what the hell you're talking about. And I got to go back to First Sergeant Hilton. You might have to edit this part. He always led PT at battery level. I mean, like, there was no, hey, first platoon, give me a PT instructor. He led it. And he would say, I thought of this last night. I said, I got to put this in. He would say, we would be doing muscle failure, sit-ups. And he'd say, you might want to edit this, if you can't do any more, bring your hands out from behind your head, grab your thighs, and pull yourself up like a bitch. And I was thinking of that yesterday. I said, oh, man, if you said that even when I was a first sergeant or when you were, man, you'd be in trouble. You'd be like, hey, man, you got to tone that stuff down. You can't. I'm thinking that was commonplace in the 80s and 90s. We did that all the time. It was, and nobody got offended. Sean Lear had an empty box of gyne-lotrimin box on his desk. And I won't go any farther. Today, I was like, man, I thought of that the other day, and I was like, oh boy, that'd be bad news now. But yeah, I told you I was long-winded, man. I told you.
No, so we grew up in a different world, right? We grew up look, I walk in a restaurant, I walk into the front desk, I'm like, can I get the no smoking section, please? We grew up in a different world. You don't even think about it anymore, but it's true. It's true. Dude, Matt, First Sergeant, Jump Master, what a great time. Thank you.
It was what, man. I look forward to it all day, man. And it just feels great to relive so much of that. And I'm going to get on the picture hunt. I've moved so much over the last 12 years. But I'm on a hunt for it, man. I'm on the hunt. I got some good pictures, and I will get them. They go to the email address in the instruction sheet.
Yeah. Send them to the email, the Nitro, I think or whatever it is. Just send it to that email. We'll get it, and then we'll put it all in package together. Dude, we have 111 on the list, Matt. Your number like 16, 17, right?
Oh, I couldn't wait. Yeah, you should look, if I could get you some names and points of contact with that.
Hey, okay, so look, I go to formerforce.com, and you can just do the little sign up, and you can nominate anybody you want. The thing is, I don't know, it's just hard. Like a veteran like you, if you didn't know me, you wouldn't want to talk to me. You wouldn't talk to me. You know, if you didn't see what we were doing, you probably wouldn't just jump on board. So I think it'll grow and people will want to tell their stories over time. But dude, this is donation only. We got this big old coin, dude, and we're striking it with a
I saw the picture with where you put the 4 zeros. Yeah, that was pretty.
That's my coin, right? I wanted 4 zeros. And then, you know, and then it'll go from there. And we bought 100 of them, but now I have 111 on the list. So I got to buy more coins already, you know, and more boxes. And but the idea is that, by golly, you know what? One of these days, our family is going to have to plan our memorial service. And what if it was kind of already done? At least our military service was already done, because we had this discussion, you and I.
Yeah.
And you got a chance to remember and give a message to your loved ones, and to laugh and joke and talk about the time you were wet and cold and you know, golly, and
oh,
how many no-go jumps were you on, right? You know, just all that frustration and all that love, all the brotherhood that I heard you share tonight is exactly what I'm trying to get at, man. Exactly what I'm trying to get at. So that Maggot's story gets told before he can't remember it anymore, you know?
It's a great thing you're doing, man. Incredible. Keep writing the stuff. You write extremely well. You could be a published author, man. You write, you know, well, and you tell the stories well. You know, it's all about preserving history. I often think to myself, I should sit down and write about my life, my whole life from my earliest memories. Because someday, you know, I wish my grandparents and great-grandparents had done that, to capture that history. And, you know, I procrastinated. You know, maybe someday I'll just say, okay, start putting stuff together. And that's a great thing about what you're doing, because otherwise, if we don't capture it, it will just be gone. It's just a memory.
Yeah. Hey, so, Matt, First Sergeant, Jumpmaster, thank you, man. Thank you.
You betcha.
Dude,
hey, where
of mine. Thank you so much.
Airborne. Where can I send the donation to? The address on the box?
Yeah, formerforce.com. Just go to formerforce.com. And you can sign up for any kind of donation or whatever. It comes straight to our little, you know, our little
okay.
And there's 3 of us. There's 3 of us. It's me, Joe Benson, and Chris Fleming. And those are 2 of my former soldiers that we've kept in touch and dreamed about doing things like this over the years. And it's just kind of organically grown together. And Benson is doing my like sending out the t-shirts, and he's got coins and he's hitting the coins and stuff. And then Fleming's doing my backdoor kind of get the foundation set up, do the editing of the videos. He's going to take over that from me in a while, and then I'm going to do the interviews. Then, like I said, dude, we have 111 on the list.
You got a lot of work to do, brother. You got a lot of work.
But it's so much fun, right? Isn't this the most fun thing you've done all?
Had a blast, man. Had a blast. Yeah. It was great. So.
Hey, so Jumpmaster, I love you, man. Thank you for your service.
Love you too, man.
Thank you, buddy. We'll see you, man.
See you. Take care. Bye.